This happened a few months ago. I don't remember the exact date, but it was January. This took place in the Philippines. My mother was the one who told me this story because I was completely unaware of it and my sister refused to talk about it, so my mom told me instead. My sister is 19 years old and she's quite short for her age. She's a college student, but she also works part-time at McDonald's, which is about 20 minutes away from our house or 30 minutes with traffic. This happened on a Sunday night, around 10 p.m. It was the end of her shift. She cleaned up what she could and said goodbye to her coworkers before heading out. Her car was parked near the exit. My parents had bought her a car the year before for her 18th birthday because they were worried about her. She's a working student, and with all the reports of kidnappings and murders in the Philippines, they didn't want her commuting late at night. That night, she was exhausted. She had been dozing off during her shift and just wanted to get home and rest. But the moment she got into her car, she smelled something foul, something really foul. She described it as smelling like a homeless person had taken a dump inside. She immediately turned on the AC to clear the smell, and it worked. But something felt off. Her car was always clean, and it even had a cover. There was no reason it should smell like that. Still, she brushed it off. She was too tired to think about it. All she wanted was to go home. While driving, she kept drifting in and out of sleep. There was no traffic, which made it even more dangerous. So she decided to connect her phone to the car and play music just to stay awake. But it didn't help. At some point, she dozed off again, and that's when it happened. She lost control of the car and crashed badly. When she regained awareness, everything was upside down. Her car had flipped. She couldn't feel anything, either from her injuries or from the shock. She was having a full-blown panic attack. She tried to unbuckle herself, but people from nearby houses rushed over to help. They managed to pull her out of the car. An ambulance arrived shortly after and took her to the hospital. And then she lost consciousness. She woke up around 2 a.m. My parents were sitting beside her bed. There was also a police officer in the room. He had helped her at the scene, and now he was there to ask her a few questions. At first, everything seemed normal. Then he asked her something that made her uneasy.
Were you alone in the car?
My sister frowned. Yes? Why? The officer hesitated. He had this look on his face, like he was shocked, but trying not to show it. Then he said something that made her heart drop.
We found a homeless man in your back seat.
Silence filled the room. The officer continued.
He had a knife on him, and during the crash, it ended up impaling him.
My sister couldn't speak. Her mind went blank. The officer explained that the man had been hiding under the back seat the entire time, listening, waiting. Because of her condition, the officer eventually stopped and left the room, nodding to my parents. My parents immediately hugged her. They thought they had almost lost her. The man was also taken to the hospital, but he didn't survive. He had been found too late. We're just grateful that my sister made it out alive. But even now, months later, she refuses to go out at night anymore. I'm 18 years old and I had just graduated high school. This happened on June 28, 2025. My mom always told me that no matter what, I should keep the door locked, always. That night, I was home alone. My parents had gone to our cabin, so it was just me, my 3 cats, and my dog. It was around 1 a.m. I was in the kitchen making food, on FaceTime with my best friend, just talking about basketball, like we always do. At one point, I unlocked the door to let my dog out to pee. But before I even got the chance to let him out, someone came running into the house. A guy my dad knew, someone who lived in the house behind ours. He came barging in. He was about 6 feet tall, dark hair, and kind of buff. At first, I thought it was just one of my dad's friends looking for him. But then, he sat down on the couch and just stared at me. It was a very awkward couple of minutes. His phone flashlight was on, pointed loosely around the room. I couldn't really make out what he was saying into his phone, but I caught a few words.
You're supposed to be on my side. You're disgusting.
Then he hung up, and that's when things got worse. He started walking up and down the stairs, going upstairs, then down into the basement, over and over again. I tried talking to him multiple times. He just stared at me and kept moving. No response, nothing. Finally, I said,
Hey, my mom and dad aren't home. You need to leave.
He looked at me and said,
No.
Then he started walking upstairs again. I raised my voice.
Hey, you're not supposed to be up there. Can you please leave?
Nothing. No reaction. At that point, I could tell he had definitely been drinking, but it felt like more than that, the way he was acting. It was like he wasn't even in this world, completely unresponsive. That's when I started to get really freaked out. My nan lives next door, but she wasn't home either, so I called my mom. I put her on speaker just so she could hear what was happening. I even tried getting her to talk to him. That's when he suddenly grabbed my phone. He tried to say something into it, and that's when my heart dropped. He hung up, and then he started making these weird sounds. I stayed calm because I knew one wrong move and things could get bad fast. About 30 minutes later, I managed to get him outside. The second he stepped out, I ran to the door and locked it. He immediately started banging on it, screaming like a maniac. For about 5 minutes straight, he was just pounding on the door and yelling. Then I saw him start moving toward the side of the house, toward the basement entrance. I ran, faster than I ever have in my life, just to make sure he couldn't get back in. I got to the door and locked it right as he got there. He just stood at the door, staring at me, screaming. Eventually, he walked away, still yelling under his breath. That was the last time I saw him. Later, I found out he was arrested around 2 a.m., and I wasn't the only one he had done this to that night. One thing I know for sure now, never leave your door unlocked, even for a second, because it only takes one moment to end up in a situation like that. This is a story about a pencil, one that left me with trauma I'll probably carry for the rest of my life. I'm still trying to recover from what happened, and I felt like I needed to share this with someone. I don't even know where to begin. We moved not too long ago. The previous apartment building was at least 20 years old, and honestly, it was so run down it almost felt abandoned. But despite how old it was, nothing truly scary had ever happened there. After we moved, everyone was excited for a fresh start. The new place wasn't that far from our old apartment, but the moment we stepped inside, something immediately stood out. There were statues everywhere, all kinds, different shapes, different sizes. Looking back, I probably should have realized something was off right then, but my mom and I just laughed it off like it was nothing. We started moving our things in, and for the first few days, everything seemed completely fine. Then, a few days later, things changed. I started hearing something strange at night. It sounded like someone writing with a pencil. At first, I couldn't tell where it was coming from, whether it was my parents' room or the apartment below us. I didn't think much of it, but the sound kept getting louder. Eventually, I got up and went to check my parents' room, but they were already asleep. That's when I felt this chill run down my spine. I just stood there, frozen. I tried to go back to bed, but the sound didn't stop. It kept repeating, almost like a rhythm, like a song. I opened the window to see if someone was outside. We lived on the second floor, but there was no one there. I remember whispering to myself, "Where the hell is that coming from?" Eventually, I tried to ignore it and forced myself to sleep, but even after several days, the same sound kept coming back, so I finally told my parents. They contacted the landlord, and what he told us made my blood run cold. He said that no one had lived in that apartment since an incident where a young girl was killed after her mother stabbed her in the eye with a pencil. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. We moved out not long after that, but I know I'll never forget what happened there. This happened last month. I couldn't remember the exact date, but I'm sure it was recent, around the time we had no classes, so I was usually at home. For context, I'm a 14-year-old girl, about 5'1" in height, turning 15 years old this year. I live in a secluded place with no more than around 2,000 people. It's usually very quiet, so I never expected something like this to happen. There are 5 people in my family, not including my niece and my brother-in-law. There's my mom, my dad, and my 2 older sisters. As I mentioned, I have a niece, my older sister's daughter, and her boyfriend also lives with us. My older sister is also 6 months pregnant with my second niece. Now on to the story. This happened the day my oldest sister got home from college, since she had just finished her semester and was taking a break due to her pregnancy. It all happened at our house. Our house is really small. We have a little patio in front before you enter the main house. When you walk in, you immediately see the living area where everything is kind of placed together, the TV and drawers all next to each other. Next to the TV is my oldest sister's room. Beside that is my other sister's room. And right next to that is my room, which is closest to the main door and has a window facing the patio. That night was like any other. My mom and dad weren't home at the time. I don't remember why. So it was just me, my sisters, my brother-in-law, and my niece at home. As usual, around 10 p.m., everyone turned off the lights and went to bed. I have severe insomnia, so I usually don't sleep until around 3 or 4 a.m. That night, I was just doing my usual thing, either playing Roblox or watching something. Around 2 a.m., I heard something outside. I forgot to mention that right beside our house, we have a billiards table, and that's where we keep the gallons of water we sell. I heard the gallons bumping into each other. At first, I assumed it was just my dogs, or maybe the puppies. Then, I heard something else. It sounded like the small door on the patio slowly opening. That didn't make sense, because I was sure I had locked it. I didn't know if I should look or not, but since my window faced the patio, I decided to take a quick peek. That's when my blood ran cold. There was someone outside, trying to pick the lock on our main door. I was terrified. I quietly stepped out of my room, since it was right beside the door, and went to knock on my sister's door to wake up my brother-in-law. He's a big guy, around 6 foot and well built. When he opened the door, I told him someone was trying to break in. At first, he didn't believe me, so I told him to look through my window. When he did, he saw it. He immediately told me to get my sister to call the police. Then he went to the kitchen and grabbed my dad's machete. He was ready to fight, but he didn't open the door. Instead, he stood to the side of it, positioning himself where the door would swing open, hiding from whoever was outside. By this point, my sister had already called the police. They said it would take around 20 minutes to get to us since we lived in such a secluded area. My brother-in-law told me to stay in the room with my sister. Then, it happened. The man finally picked the lock and slowly opened the door. The moment he stepped inside, my brother-in-law tackled him to the ground. While he pinned him down, me and my sisters ran out to see what was happening. We turned on the lights and saw a man we didn't recognize. Not long after that, the police arrived and took him away. My parents came home shortly after. During questioning, the man claimed he was just a simple robber trying to break in, but I don't believe that. There were plenty of other houses nearby that would have been easier targets. So why choose ours? Let's just say he's now serving time in prison, and I hope he never gets out.